So in my learning plan, I was planning my student to learn something about loops. It was the next generation science standard plan and conduct an investigation to provide evidence that feedback mechanisms maintain homeostasis. And my diagnostic assessments showed actually a pretty good result before starting this. The student had 70% right. And after going through the formative assessment, he had 100% right, which was not surprising when he already had a pretty good understanding of the content before even getting started with the content. But still, pretty good performance. So, the reflect on formative assessment. The formative assessments she worked with was making graphs of negative loops and positive loops. And she did that. Her negative loops were looking like this, where you kind of had a disturbance and you had a increase of a certain substance, and then after a certain period it came back to balance. And you could have another disturbance and it would come back to balance. That's the kind of what a negative loop is supposed to look like. And that's how my students' graphs look like. And then she also needed to make positive loops, which are not actually coming back to a balance as the negative one, but are just increasing actually with no limit unless something else will happen. And that's what this yellow line actually shows here, is to be a positive loop that just continue increasing unless another thing is happening in the body. So that was the first formative assessment. And of course you could see what the difference was between the two kind of graphs that she made. But after talking to her, she didn't really have a very deep understanding of what positive and negative loops actually meant. But the second formative assessment was about interactions among systems, where she had to make a flowchart of a certain body system, and she made a flowchart of the body temperature system, where if the body temperature falls, your muscle will start to shiver and you will generate heat, which will bring the normal body temperature back. Or your temperature would rise and your blood vessel would dilate and result in heat loss to the environment, or your sweat glands would secrete fluid and that would evaporate, and then again heat is lost from the body, and that would again create the normal body temperature. So after she kind of knew this one was the negative loop, she could kind of see that yes, the temperature here, it was kind of easy to understand with the temperature, that the temperature comes back to normal because the body counteracts some of the stimulus, and she could of course relate that to the negative loop, where she could also see it came back to balance. And she would kind of understand that if the body temperature would continue to rise without finding its balance again, that would be a positive loop. So doing both of the formative assessment would give her a kind of good understanding of the content, but they had to kind of be connected. Well, then the challenge was to implement joy factors, and I tried to find 3 joy factors that you could be used in this one. The first one would be hands-on, where simply balance a hardcover book on your head, walk with it, describe how you balance it, and you can certainly relate that to a negative loop, because if you are tripping or losing the balance, you will counteract and find the balance again with the book, and it would not fall down. You could kind of say if it fell down, it would be a positive loop because it would fall until it couldn't fall anymore, and it would not come back to balance. That was the first joy factor activity. Another one would be to use a YouTube video. I'll show you a short part of it here. Yes, so as you can see here, he's trying to explain negative loop using a speed limit sign. That also kind of gives a good explanation of a negative loop that again is about coming back to a certain balance. Then we could use different examples from our everyday life and talk about, okay, how do they come back to to a balance? Would they be a negative or would they be a positive loop? For example, what kind of loop would too much noise in the classroom cause? Would it come back to balance, or would the noise just continue? Or what kind of loop would feeling hungry cause? What would unlimited access to chocolate chips and Coke cause? What loop will occur if you can dance to your favorite music all night long? Thinking of those, there will probably be different answers, but it will again be a discussion about, are we coming back to balance, or is it just going to continue on a increasing graph like this, where the line will just go up and up and there will not be a balance. The last one, joy factor, would be to use a virtual interactive website where you can create negative loops or positive loops. You can put some different factors in over here, and then you can run it. This is with influence, and you can change the density of population and population mix could be different, and then you can run it and you can see what kind of loop you would get, and you could see that the risk is pretty high in the beginning, but the immune system is rising, and then if you look at the green one, it would find some kind of balance where the risk level would be at, and you could change some of the factors up here and change some of the details over here, and you can make different kind of loops, and again you can discuss what kind of loops they are, if they are positive or negative. You can even make a competition and let the students try to compete about who can make the most steep positive loop, or who can make the most negative loops on that one. Yeah, so I think after using some of the joy factors, some of the different formative assessments, the students will be having a pretty good understanding of the standard I was choosing: plan and conduct an investigation to provide evidence that feedback mechanisms maintain homeostasis.